Example of evaporation. Some common examples of evaporation that we encounter in daily life, atmosphere, and industry are as follows. In daily life. In our everyday life, we often encounter many examples of evaporation. For instance, perfume bottle, when left open, the liquid present in it gradually decreases due to evaporation. Drying of wet hair is due to evaporation. Melting of an ice cube. When one performs physical activities, such as working under sunlight, jumping, running, etc., their body produces sweat, the sweat occurring on. In atmosphere. Drying up water bodies like lakes, rivers, and ponds in summer is due to water evaporation. Here water gets evaporated and gets refilled after it rains. Evaporation is a necessary process in the formation of the water cycle. The cooling of water in an earthen pot indicates the cooling effect of evaporation, and the water cools as it evaporates from the surface of the earthen pot. The melting of an ice cube. It is the best day-to-day example of evaporation. When we take a cube of ice out of the refrigerator, we can notice that it changes its shape from solid to liquid after a minute. This change happens because of the process of evaporation. Further, if the temperature of the ice cube increases, it will evaporate entirely and vanish into the air. Have you ever noticed that ironing slightly wet clothes work better to remove wrinkle? Ironing of clothes. This is because of the evaporation of water in the clothing, as this process creates a steaming effect to make it wrinkle-free. Wet clothes dry in the sun due to evaporation, and the water present in wet cloth will evaporate if ironed. Hot press will evaporate water vapor trapped in the fabric and hence remove wrinkles. Drying of wet tables. If a waiter wipes table did not stay wet after some time because of evaporation. Drying of a wet floor. When you accidentally spill water on the floor, you try to mop it. If it is a sunny day, you need not do it because, however, after 5 or 10 minutes, you will notice that the floor is dry. Because of evaporation, the heat in the air warms the water droplets present on the floor, evaporating so that the floor does not stay wet. Drying of wet clothes. Have you ever tried to dry your clothing on a line in the summer? Your clothes get dry because water droplets evaporate out of the dress in the form of vapor due to heat produced from the sun. Drying of puddles. After heavy rainfall, we can find streets with puddles. However, puddles are disappeared after sun rises. It is because the heat energy obtained from the sun evaporates the water present in the reservoir, and therefore, we can say that evaporation plays a vital role in the water cycle. Hand sanitizer. When we use a hand sanitizer, our hands dry up quickly, giving a cooling effect. It is because spirit present in sanitizer has a slower evaporation rate than water, so it evaporates quickly due to your body as heat. The exact process happens for nail polish remover. Acetone. Blow dryer, hair dryer. When you are in a rush, you probably use a blow dryer to dry your hair. The heat from the blow dryer speedily evaporate the water molecules existing in your hair. Preparation of salt. Salt is extracted from seawater by allowing the water to evaporate over a long time. The salt that gives the salt water its saline taste is left behind. Salt ponds disappear slowly at a standard temperature rate. The salt that is left behind over the evaporated ponds is used to make table salt. Salt crystals are obtained either naturally by evaporation of seawater using some techniques or from an industrial process. Examples of evaporation in the kitchen. Hot tea/coffee/milk gets cool over time because of evaporation. It is observed that sipping of hot coffee/milk faster from a saucer than from a cup. Since a saucer has a larger surface area compared to a cup, it cools down very quickly. This indicates that evaporation depends on surface area. Evaporated water from cooking pan. Whistling of kettle. The kettle produces a whistle when the water present in it starts to boil due to the evaporation process. This whistling phenomenon happens because water gradually evaporates into steam. It causes the kettle to whistle, letting you know that hot water is ready to drink. Working of pressure cooker. When we apply heat to the cooker, as a result, the water present inside it starts to vaporize. Hence, a small amount of steam comes out of the pressure cooker due to evaporation, indicating the dish is ready. One more important thing to remember is, we should seal the cooker before the application of heat. Otherwise, the pressure generated inside the pressure cooker will not be enough to speed up cooking. Examples of water evaporation. Liquid starts to evaporate when heated, and molecules present inside the liquid start to rush. After this, they escape as vapor/gas molecules into the atmosphere. Drying up of different water bodies. Hot drinks cool after a while due to evaporation. Drying of a wet or mopped floor. Drying wet hair after a while. Evaporation of sweat cools the body. Sweat is a cooling mechanism as it sheds excess heat and keeps our body cool. When we go out during a hot summer day, we feel hot, and later we sweat to cool down ourselves. Have you wondered how does it work? Pretty simple. When our body is excessively heated, it makes use of the evaporative process through sweating. Sweat consists of 90% water, starts to evaporate. Water leaves our skin through pores. The water then evaporates off our skin, cooling us down. The degree of cooling depends on the rate and heat of evaporation. Examples of evaporation that causes cooling are as follows. An air cooler is worked on the process of evaporation. Storing of water in a clay pot. During summer, water is usually kept in mud pots to keep it cool, and this cooling effect occurs because of evaporation. Water is cooled in the pot because the pot's surface comprise ample pores, and water seeps through these small holes to the outer surface of the pot in very slow process, cool the pot and hence cool the water in it. Example of evaporated milk. Evaporated milk is one of the best known examples of evaporation. Evaporated milk or unsweetened condensed milk differs from regular condensed milk, which contains added sugar. This will remove 60% of the water from regular milk by evaporation and other processes. Evaporated milk has half of its water drawn through the evaporation process before it is homogenized. Milk fat is uniformly mixed into milk, sterilized, to avoid the growth of microorganisms, and packed. The process to get evaporated milk. When fresh milk is heated continuously, heating the milk gives it a creamy texture. It happens because, while heating the milk, half of the liquid from milk evaporates in vapor. It creates a thicker version of milk that has a creamier consistency and a slightly darker color. Still, with over half of its liquid is removed, its nutrient composition remains the same, making it a nutritious and protein-rich milk product. FAQs, frequently asked questions on evaporation. Which is the best example of evaporation? Cooling towers are one of the best evaporation applications. We can find them in nuclear power plants. Evaporation helps in the concentration of some products. For example, through evaporation, we can obtain sugar from molasses/sugarcane. Spa or hot springs use vaporized waters, and this vaporized water is used to relax muscles of the body. Examples of evaporation. What are the uses of evaporation in our daily life? Evaporation helps to dry the mopped floors, drying of wet clothes, evaporate acetone used in nail paint remover, melt ice cubes, etc. Is boiling water an example of evaporation? Boiling water is not an example of evaporation because boiling water occurs at a particular temperature called boiling point, whereas evaporation occurs below boiling point. Examples of evaporation on living organisms? In many living organisms, including human beings, evaporation of sweat is expected as it contains 90% water. It helps the organism cool themselves in the hot summer to maintain that body temperature. It can be observed in processes like respiration, perspiration, and urination. During photosynthesis, excess water evaporate from the leaf's surface as water vapor. Example of evaporation mixture? Sugar mixed with water, salt mixed with water, and copper sulfate solutions are some examples of evaporation mixture. What is evaporation? Sugar mixed with water, salt mixed with water, and copper sulfate solutions are some examples of evaporation mixture. Example of evaporation in separating mixtures? The mixture of water and milk is a homogeneous mixture separated by evaporation to get evaporated milk. What are examples of evaporation in the household applications? Examples of evaporation that we often observe in a household are working a pressure cooker, ironing clothes, drying wet hair, etc. What are two examples that explain the fact that evaporation causes cooling? Dogs put their tongue out and pant it to keep their body cool, because of the cooling effect of evaporation. If you touch his acetone, feels chilled as the wind blows because of evaporation. How can the process of evaporation be described? Evaporation is a physical phenomenon in which a physical entity in its liquid state changes into the gaseous state. Evaporation occurs on the surface of the liquid. It occurs because water molecules vibrate rapidly at a particular temp, which resulted to molecules' energy gain to discharge from the lattice. Is evaporation an adiabatic process? Yes, evaporation is an adiabatic process. Adiabatic cooling is a phenomenon caused by the phase transition from the solid to liquid or from the liquid to gaseous state. It is also called an evaporative cooling process. For example, when people transpire, sweat is excluded from their pores, the sweat starts to evaporate on the skin's surface, the heat energy needed for the evaporation process is taken from the body, therefore, achieves adiabatic cooling through evaporation. Please visit our website lambdageeks.com for more articles on technology, engineering, mathematics, and various other domains. Scientific calculator and many more other tools.